the Dynamic Duel Podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And in this episode, we are reviewing the collection of animated shorts called Superman Shazam, The Return of Black Adam. It was a direct-to-video collection that DC released in 2010. So it's a little bit older, but it has a fantastic Shazam origin story in it.
Right.
I thought would be great to review in our lead up to our Shazam review.
I thought it was a fantastic little collection of anthological shorts. I had a lot of fun watching it, and if you guys haven't seen it, it's a really easy watch because it's only an hour long.
Yeah.
Each short runs about 10 to 25 minutes. So if you guys have an hour to kill before you listen to this review, go ahead, definitely watch it because it'll be worth your time.
Definitely watch it also before listening to this because they're shorts. There's not a lot of content there to talk about, so we'll be spoiling and talking about every single thing that happens in those.
Right, exactly.
Before we get to that, we're going to break down the news from the past week. Full disclosure, we are recording this episode early because I'm going on vacation and it's spring break.
Lucky asshole.
Yep, that's right. I'm going to be going to Six Flags, buying me some DC swag. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be good times.
But yeah, because of that, we don't have a whole lot of news to talk about. Well, there's one item of news that was actually released a week ago, and that's about the What If animated anthology that Disney Plus is going to be releasing on their platform. So we'll talk about that.
And it ties in nicely to the film that we were reviewing.
Right, because they're both anthological.
Exactly. So feel free to skip around this episode. Our segment times will be in our episode description.
Yeah, definitely check those out. We want to give a huge thank you to Lenka Minarikova, who is just a beautiful human being inside and out. She shared our podcast on her yoga page. If you guys have any interest in yoga, definitely go ahead and look up zgung.com. I think that's her website, and definitely check that out if you guys are into yoga. But she's a fan of the show, and she shared us with all 50,000 of her followers. So big shout out and thank you to her.
Yeah, that was awesome. And if you could share our show with all of your friends and everyone you know on your social media accounts, that would really help us out because we're trying to get to 200 iTunes ratings. Once we hit 200 ratings on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, we then meet all the criteria required to become official Rotten Tomatoes critics and have our film reviews count towards the aggregate tomato score.
Right, that would be fantastic. It's a dream of ours. If you guys could help us out with that, that would be very much appreciated. But with that out of the way,
quick, to the No Prize.
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that Jonathan personally draws for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question, coming off the news that James Gunn has been reinstated as the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, we asked, who do you think the villain should be for the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 film? And we got a lot of great answers. I don't think there was a wrong answer here.
No.
I would love to see Guardians of the Galaxy movies being made until I'm 50 years old and have each one of these answers as its own film.
That'd be cool.
But we want to give honorable mention to Mitch Phipps, who gave the answer of Gladiator. Now, there's two Gladiators in the Marvel Comics. There's the Daredevil villain, and then there's the leader of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard.
He has that big mohawk. He's like Superman.
Yeah,
right?
He's like Superman, pretty much. He's a Superman ripoff.
Is he a bad guy? I thought he was a hero.
It depends on the story, really. I mean, it is an altruistic group of superheroes, but they always serve the Emperor's commands. Okay. So it just depends. But typically, he's a hero. And he's a fantastic character. I'd love to use him in a duel match one day, maybe against Superman.
Bring it on. Also, shout out to Colby Henches and Dustin Balcom, who gave the answer Annihilus. Yeah, and Justin suggested going with the Annihilation story from the comics, in which Nova played a huge part, and you could actually introduce Richard Rider, or Sam Alexander, I guess. I don't know. I prefer Richard Rider in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. You'd have to introduce Nova in a Guardians of the Galaxy film.
Right, maybe because they had the Nova Corps in there.
Right, and I almost think that once Chris Pratt's contract expires, they'll start introducing him to sort of lead the team.
Yeah, you could have a new Guardians team, pretty much. Great answer. Honorable mention also goes to Matt Estes, who thinks the Kree Supreme Intelligence should be the villain, and that's the same character that was introduced in the recent Captain Marvel movie. I think that'd be a great idea. I'd be interested in seeing who each individual member of the Guardians sees as the character, but eventually we got to get that reveal of the head in the tank.
Yeah.
Because the Captain Marvel movie dropped the ball there.
Honorable mention also goes to Caleb Albers, who gave the answer Molecule Man, and he also mentioned the Supreme Intelligence as well.
I like the idea of Molecule Man because, he's a comedic, quirky character, and he's pretty much omnipotent, and he could really prove to be a foil for these characters, and I'd really like to see his interactions with Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea who that character is.
His real name is Owen Reese, and he played a big part in the recent Secret Wars event that happened in the comics a couple years ago. So, yeah, check that out. Honorable mention also goes to Joel Seagrave, who gave the answer Baby Thanos, because he wants the Guardians to go back in time to save Gamora and to try to fight Thanos when he's a kid before he becomes this madman.
It's like Baby Hitler.
Yeah. I don't know if they will be going back in time in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, since that seems to be the device that they're going to be using in the Avengers Endgame movie. And I'm assuming that once they defeat Thanos, they'll be restoring like the universe and maybe bring Gamora back to life for the next Guardians movie.
Yeah. Honorable mention also goes to CJ Kraft, who gave the answer Super Skrull, which is a very timely answer.
Right, because a few episodes ago, we pit the Super Skrull against Metamorpho, and that was a pretty fun fight to talk about. So if you guys have listened to the show, you know all about Super Skrull and why he would be a fantastic villain for the Guardians of the Galaxy. Honorable mention also goes to Jeremy Orr, who gave the answer Mephisto.
The Marvel Devil.
The Marvel version of the Devil, basically. He's a Silver Surfer villain, so it's possible that you could introduce other cosmic characters through that villain. But I've always thought of Mephisto as more of like a supernatural type villain, belonging more to the world of like Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And honorable mention also goes to Ken Johnson, Salvador Martinez, and Harrison Fox for all giving the answer of Adam Warlock, who was, of course, teased at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, Salvador Martinez said that Adam Warlock should be the villain at first, and then at the end introduce the Silver Surfer and Galactus as ongoing villains. Harrison Fox suggested a similar concept, but said that Adam Warlock would team up with Man-Beast and then switch to the good guys towards the end. Adam Warlock was a fantastic answer, but I did not end up picking him because there is a version of Adam Warlock that would be the correct answer, and that's the answer that's earned this week's No Prize, and it was given by John and Adam Spees, who are both hosts of the Blast from Our Past podcast. They both gave the answer of Magus, who's the evil version of Adam Warlock from an alternate future, and he is Adam Warlock's like primary antagonist, and he would be a fantastic foil for Adam Warlock to go against if he ends up joining the team in the next movie. I really want to see that done.
I really want to do a duel with Adam Warlock.
Yeah, we could put him against like Mr. Miracle or something like that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we should do that soon. But yeah, congrats to John and Adam Spees. Adam also gave the answer of Annihilus and mentioned the Annihilation story, but we talked about that a little bit before. But yeah, congrats again to you guys. And if you, the listener, want to win a No Prize, go ahead and stay tuned to later on this episode when we ask another question of the week. And with that out of the way,
on to the news.
Right, it was announced last week by Slash Film that Disney is planning to produce and release a television show on their Disney Plus app based off of Marvel's What If comic book series. Now, the What If comics were part of a long-running series by Marvel that would ask like the outlandish questions that they could answer safely without the burden of their continuity being ruined.
Right.
So it would be questions like, what if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? Like, what if Captain America had never died in World War II? What if the X-Men died? You know, things like that.
Yeah.
They could explore these alternate universe stories and keep everything else intact. It was kind of like a whole sandbox series, kind of.
Yeah, and it was really fascinating. Like, this was like before DC's Elseworlds imprint or anything like that.
Yeah. One of my favorite what if stories was what if Spider-Man had rescued Gwen Stacy? I thought that was a really touching one. And a lot of these stories answered questions that a lot of fans were curious about. And I think that this animated anthology, while it won't take place in Marvel Cinematic Universe canon, I think is a great way to explore a lot of questions people may have regarding the cinematic universe as well.
Do you think it's going to be questions specifically of the cinematic universe?
Well, they are saying that some of the talent is possibly going to reprise their roles from the films and lend their voices to these animated characters. So that's really exciting to me.
Do we know any other details about this project?
No, just that it's in the works. There's not really a whole lot to discuss here, but there is a whole lot to get excited about. Because you can literally do anything. Like, you can have, like, an animated short. What if they managed to pull off Thanos' gauntlet on the planet Titan in the Infinity Gauntlet movie? Or what if, like, Hank Pym was one of the original founding members of the Cinematic Universe Avengers team? But really, these episodes could pertain to any continuity.
Maybe. I think it'll be strictly cinematic because that's what most people are familiar with, I think.
And that's the continuity the other Marvel Disney Plus live action television shows are going to belong to anyway. So they might try to keep everything together.
Yeah, I know Marvel likes to do that. That's a big reason why they haven't done like too many video games and stuff like that, is because they want to keep one cohesive universe that everyone's familiar with.
Right.
Or I just thought of another what if. Like, what if Captain America and Bucky got married?
Yeah, sure, that could be one. Or what if Steve Rogers and Sharon Carter got married? I keep waiting for that romance to blossom in the movies, but I don't know if it'll happen.
Yeah, who knows if she's ever going to make any more appearances if they're not going to make any more Captain America films.
Right, that's true. But that brings us to our question of the week. What episode would you like to see get made in this upcoming What If series? So each answer should begin with what if.
Post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media.
Yep, and again, we're recording this episode early, so it's a short news week for us.
It's a short episode.
Right, because already we're moving on to our review of the movie Superman/Shazam, The Return of Black Adam.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Alright, so Superman Shazam, The Return of Black Adam. Once again, before you listen to this, make sure you've seen the film.
It's a quick watch.
It's really quick, really easy to watch, really fun to watch. I actually really like this collection of animated shorts. This was a direct-to-video collection that was released in 2010, as I mentioned earlier. It was comprised of 4 animated shorts, the main feature of which was the 25-minute Return of Black Adam film. And the 3 other shorts, which were made under a DC Showcase banner, star the Spectre, Green Arrow, and Jonah Hex.
Yeah, those are all fantastic stories.
And those are 10-minute extended versions of animated shorts that were included in other direct-to-video DC animated films. Sort of like what Pixar does, when they play those shorts before their films. Mm-hmm. The goal of the DC Showcase was to feature some of DC's lesser-known characters that would most likely never receive their own feature-length animated film, which is a noble cause in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame that these characters may never have their own features.
Yeah.
I do love me some good shorts.
I really think that they should start including these shorts before the live-action DC movies, like how Pixar does before their films.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started. It's my dream that one day DC will start doing live-action shorts and put those in front of their films.
No, I like the animated shorts.
But it would be a way to expand their universe and get more characters in front of more people.
Well, I know Marvel used to have their Marvel one-shots that they used to produce and include on the DVDs of the Marvel films.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I always thought that would be cool if they included that at the end or the beginning of the Marvel theatrical releases.
Instead of an end credit scene, you would have just an entire short film, before the movie even started, maybe.
Yeah. I do find that the animated films are more appealing to me, though, just because I think you can get away with more fantastical concepts with a smaller budget. And
yeah, the budget would be a lot smaller. It'd probably be more likely to get made if the budget was smaller too.
Right.
I mean, they did an animated short in front of the Teen Titans Go to the Movies theatrical
That's right.
film.
They did do that, yeah.
It was their way to introduce the new style of DC superhero girls.
Uh-huh.
That was cool.
I mean, it wasn't the greatest short. It was cute. But yeah, something like that for the Aquaman and Shazam and Wonder Woman films.
Yeah, that would be awesome. One of my favorite things on the DC Universe platform right now is their collection of animated shorts. It's under a different banner, though, not DC Showcase. It's DC Nation. Mm-hmm. My daughters love them. It's a great way to introduce others to some of the DC characters they may not be familiar with, like Animal Man or Amethyst.
Oh, really?
I love those animated shorts on DC Universe. They're fantastic.
There's an Animal Man short on the DC Universe app?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 shorts. They're hilarious. With shorts, Warner Brothers gets to do some unconventional animation techniques and styles and hire some pretty prolific animators like Rich Weber. He's known for the Wallace and Gromit claymation.
Uh-huh.
He's done some shorts for DC Nation. I think of all of DC's animated shorts, the ones that are in the Superman Shazam collection are probably my favorite.
Yeah, from this film.
Right, they're all kind of done in this Bruce Timm kind of style, but they mix it up just enough to suit the material. The Shazam animation style is bright and charming. The Spectre is scary and grindhouse. Yeah. Green Arrow was closer to streamlined anime action.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say that.
And Jonah Hex is a stylized Western, or at least as stylized as you could get with Bruce Timm's style.
Right.
And honestly, this is sort of probably pushing the boundaries of what you can do with Bruce Timm's style.
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially with the Spectre short.
Yeah, that was awesome. Let's get into the shorts.
Well, before we get into the shorts, I actually want to comment on the setup in which each short is presented, where the camera goes through a comic book store.
Oh, yeah.
And then highlights an issue off the rack, and then the camera kind of goes into the issue, and that becomes the short that we're watching. But yeah, I like this comic book store device as a concept. I think it's a great way to tie all these stories back to their source materials.
Yeah, I don't know if each of one of these stories is specifically based off of a comic. Mm-hmm. I know Superman Shazam had their own comic, and that's the cover that you saw, in that framing device.
Right.
but I don't think the story was exactly the same. Because the storyline of this short is sort of like a what-if scenario, like what if Billy Batson met Superman when he became Shazam?
Right, yeah, exactly. That's absolutely true.
Just diving right into that short, they have some pretty good voice talent for it. They have pretty good voice talent for all of these shorts.
Oh, definitely.
But this one has George Newbern, who's returning as the voice of Superman from the animated Bruce Timm cartoon.
Right.
But we also have Jerry O'Connell as Captain Marvel.
Who would later take on the role of Superman in subsequent direct-to-video DC animated films.
Right, he's like the new voice of Superman currently. Arnold Vosloo is Black Adam. He's the guy who played the Mummy in the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Which I thought was like perfect. Like he could totally play Black Adam in a live action film.
Right, if The Rock wasn't already doing it.
Right. I'm not too familiar with the voice actor for Billy Batson. His name is Zach Callison, but I thought he did a fantastic job just really capturing like the innocence of Billy Batson.
I totally agree. I think he delivered his lines with like a very altruistic, sweet approach.
Yeah, he definitely sells like the G. Willikers kind of thing, but without it being corny.
When this movie started, I didn't know that it was going to be an origin story for Billy Batson. So when like he stood up to the bullies who were like robbing that guy, I thought he was doing it with the confidence knowing that he had the power of Shazam at his back.
No, he's just a good kid.
He's just a really good kid.
Yeah. I love the setup that they do for Billy Batson. I mean, the film starts off with Black Adam crashing near Fawcett City, but that's pretty quick. Right after that, we meet Billy Batson. We see him sleeping on a mattress in this like big empty apartment. And we just see how alone he is, but also how kind he is, like feeding the last of his food as chips to those mice, and then helping the homeless guy right after from those bullies, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
After that, he goes to meet Clark Kent because Clark's doing a story on him, and this kind of sets up like the whole sort of like arc and theme of the short, in that Billy's not sure being good is worth it, and Superman essentially has to explain to him that like being good is hard and being bad is easy. And then like right after that, like immediately, the story wastes no time, which is one thing I like about shorts, is that there's no time for fluff or filler. Like right after Clark Kent explains that to him, Black Adam just appears out of nowhere by that diner, and just like obliterates it.
Yeah, I could have used a little bit more setup on behalf of Black Adam, but they do get to that later because it's really hard to know what his motivations are by this point.
Oh, I think he has a great motivation. I really like this version of Black Adam in this storyline because
he doesn't like that he's about to be supplanted as the Wizard Shazam's champion.
Exactly, and you understand why like he went corrupt and had to be banished. It was because he thought of himself as a god, and he explains that to Billy. He's like, I have the powers of God, am I not a god myself?
Right.
And you learn from Shazam when he's giving Billy his power that Black Adam started to use his power for selfish gain. Just a really fantastic take on that character.
Yeah, I really like the Black Adam versus Superman fight too, because Superman's trying to protect Billy in the beginning, and the brawl that those two have is pretty spot on. There was one moment where Black Adam was shooting Superman with a lightning bolt, and Superman was blocking it with his hand, but like he almost created like a red energy shield with his hand, I felt like, and then all of a sudden there was like a counter blast that blew them both apart. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, why Superman was able to block the lightning to begin with, and how he was able to counter it so that they both went blasting apart.
I'm not entirely sure, but they do make note that Superman is weak to magic.
Yeah.
Which I think, as much as I'm torn on whether or not I like Superman being in this storyline, part of me just feels like it should have just been a Shazam story.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that Black Adam presents a challenge for Superman because he is magic.
Right.
So he's kind of a good fit to the story because he can't solve the problem for Billy. Billy still has to learn to be a hero and to be good, you know?
Right.
Superman just sort of serves as the mentor figure in place of Shazam because Shazam dies in the storyline, which is not something that happened in the comics, and it's really interesting. They did that in the New 52, and I almost wonder if they were like coming up with those storylines concurrently, because the same thing would happen for Billy like a year or two later in the comics.
Yeah, Billy gets chased down into the subway, and he jumps onto the tracks, and it looks like the subway is about to run him over, but he ends up inside of the subway because of the magic of Shazam. And that scene looked very similar to what we've seen in the trailers for the live-action Shazam movie coming out soon.
Yeah. And that's from the comics, you know?
Oh, really? He was summoned to first meet Shazam in the subway?
It wasn't a subway, like, train, but it was in the subway, like in the subway tracks that he stumbled upon the entryway to the Rock of Eternity, where Shazam lives.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Once he does get his power, the whole short is almost entirely action from that point on. And it's great just to see how Black Adam is able to fight both of them at the same time. You know, eventually he gets worn out, which is why he has to, like, create a diversion for Superman, you know, in the form of a flood, just so he could, like, separate the two.
Right, yeah, because he destroyed the dam, and Superman had to save all the people.
Yeah, and then once he grabs, like, a hostage and starts monologuing and makes Billy, like, depower, Like, you understand, like, the ruthlessness of the Black Adam character when he just, like, takes the hostage and just flings him up into the sky.
Right.
He, like, rushes and grabs Billy's face so he can't say Shazam to save her. It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah, that was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, Billy's really lucky Superman was there to help him. But that last moment between Shazam, or I guess Captain Marvel in this film, because he wasn't Shazam yet.
Which was really weird, having just watched Marvel's Captain Marvel film.
Right.
Yeah. I'm really glad DC decided to change that up finally.
I think everyone benefits from that, honestly.
Yeah.
Both companies. But when Shazam, Captain Marvel, is about to kill Black Adam, and Superman's like, don't do that. It would be easy to kill him. Be stronger than that. Be good. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really good moment.
Yeah, the themes kind of came full circle right there.
They did. And then, of course, Black Adam, he just can't cope with being banished again. So he kind of like commits suicide, which is pretty dark.
Yeah, he says Shazam and he gets blasted by lightning again. So he goes back to his mortal form, which is like 5,000 years old. So he kind of just like mummifies and like blows away in the wind. That was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
And is that how it works in the comics too? Does Black Adam always stay in his superpowered form?
Yeah, I think around the time this film was made, like the current Black Adam was actually a descendant of the original Black Adam, Teth Adam. Uh-huh. The modern version was Theo Adam.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. But once that's all done, the story wraps up with Billy reading the newspaper article that Clark wrote about him and him being bullied by the same guys who were bullying the homeless guy in the alleyway at the beginning of the short.
Right.
And, they're like, say something. And he just smiles. It's a great way to end it.
It was great. I hope they end the film that way, too.
Me too. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, the live-action film could only serve to benefit by borrowing a lot of elements from this short.
Why not? I mean, this was direct-to-video. Not too many people saw it, I feel like, even though they should.
Yeah, definitely. Although I do have to say that I actually think that this Superman Shazam short was probably the weakest one for me out of all of them.
Really?
Yeah, even though it was the longest, I really liked the stylization and the concision of the subsequent shorts.
The next one is probably my favorite.
This one is my favorite too. The Spectre? Yes. I loved this one.
This was like so cool. I remember just watching it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest.
It was so very 70s noir grindhouse style with like, it had the film grain and everything. And Gary Cole's voice work was so fantastic. I would love to see Gary Cole play the character Shazam in a live action movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He would make a fantastic Jim Corrigan. Now, if you're not familiar with the character of the Spectre, you could listen to our previous episode, The Spectre versus Galactus, where we talk all about Jim Corrigan and the character of the Spectre.
And if you don't know who Gary Cole is, he was the boss in the movie The Office.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was one of the announcers in the movie Dodgeball, and he was the bad guy in Pineapple Express. Yeah.
If you saw him, you would know who he is.
Yeah.
But Alyssa Milano is also in this film.
Right.
She plays the love interest.
Yeah, the femme fatale.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't know that yet because this film is a murder mystery.
Yeah, I mean, the mystery isn't really compelling. And there's no real threat to the lead character himself because, the Spectre is omniscient. He has like all the power and he's going up against like these kind of 2-bit murderers and he just basically toys with them. But it is really interesting to watch.
Super interesting. So well done.
It's kind of like what I said about the Captain Marvel movie, that there is something cathartic about seeing the hero go into like God mode and just like wipe the floor with the bad guys.
Oh, the Spectre character is like tailor-made for that.
Yeah.
Like the first guy he takes out, who's like a special effects guy, and he takes him out with like monster puppets and stuff like that.
Yeah, like possessed animatronics.
That was freaky.
That was creepy as hell.
That was so well done.
This was kind of one of the more violent shorts too, because like the animatronics like threw the guy down some stairs and shit.
Oh yeah, and then he was finished off by that giant King Kong. He just like crushed him.
Yeah, and in the next scene he goes after the guy in the speeding car.
Oh, I know.
And the way he just fucks with the guy in the car, like he makes him fly up this ramp. He just toys with him until eventually he just freaking drops the car on him.
That car scene was like straight out of a horror film,
wasn't it though?
It was
so surreal. I'd watch that again and again.
I would watch that in live action.
That's what I was thinking. As soon as I saw that scene, I was like, I want to see this in live action. It reminded me of like Death Proof meets Nightmare on Elm Street meets like Darkman or something like that.
Yeah, and like a few elements of like The Exorcist thrown in and just crazy stuff. One of the biggest drawbacks I think to these shorts, as much as I love them, is that they just leave you wanting more.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with one as stylized as this. I think this needs to be a live-action Tarantino movie.
This does. Please, Tarantino. If you ever listen to this podcast episode, make this film. You would be perfect for it.
I think the final scene where he goes after the Alyssa Milano character, the femme fatale, and the way he kills her,
oh man,
was fucking hardcore. That was like the most brutal one because he takes all her money that she inherited and murdered for. It's like death by a million paper cuts. He like rips her to shreds with these dollar bills.
Yeah, it's like a dollar bill tornado that just like slices her to like nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
It is, but
it's justice.
She tried to, it is justice. She tried to kill him. I liked that scene too, where like the bullets just went like right through him. That was pretty cool.
I think that I like the music the most in this short.
Oh yeah, this one definitely had the best music. It was so fitting for the material. Very grindhouse, very 70s, so well done.
Yeah, definitely my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. The next short was Green Arrow, and this one was pretty much like a straight action piece. It didn't have too much story.
Yeah, it had a lot of adrenaline, though, and I do appreciate the visual style here because although the characters looked like Bruce Timm characters, they moved like anime characters.
Yeah.
And the camera work was very anime. It was very kinetic.
It was very kinetic. Great angles. And I like that you learn about like what's going on story-wise as Green Arrow is. He was just there to pick up Black Canary from the airport. Then all of a sudden, all this shit went down. You don't know what's going down. But you learn what's happening as he does with Princess Perdita and the whole coup that's happening in her country of Vladova.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure what was going on with her either. But again, like you said in these shorts, what's really cool about them is that you kind of jump into the action and then learn the story as you go.
Yeah.
So you're always somewhat a little bit confused, but you always appreciate the fact that, there's not a whole lot of filler. There's no filler.
No, there's no time for it.
And in that sense, I think this was the best paced out of all the shorts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The action was so well paced. And
it was well set up, too. Like, fighting with bows and arrows at an airport, where there's, like, so much, like, luggage, trams, a whole lot of things going on that you could just work around.
Oh, yeah, like when he's fighting on the tarmac against Merlin and stuff like that.
Yes.
And, he takes some damage. Like, there are definitely stakes in this short film.
Right.
But it's just a great, like, back and forth between him and the different characters he's facing.
Yeah, it really makes me want a Hawkeye film. So bad. I want a Hawkeye film that looks like this, because they have never done anything with Hawkeye in the live-action movies that looked anything like this.
Yeah.
They give you the impression that he is such a deadly character.
Yeah.
Although the story here did end, was that kind of like a surprise twist toward the end here, when you find out who the Princess Perdita's uncle was?
Yes, I never made the connection. I'm not too familiar with Count Vertigo and how he's like one of the monarchs of Vladova, but that was interesting. That was a cool angle towards the end. After Green Arrow defeated Merlin and Count Vertigo just showed up to like finish the job.
I love the way he defeated Merlin. It was kind of like a contest. They both had one arrow and they both drew at the same time,
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
That was really cool. I do think the way that this battle ended and ultimately this short ended was kind of like a Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, with Black Canary?
Yeah, Count Vertigo is a Green Arrow villain. Like, Green Arrow should be able to go up against him without being saved by his girlfriend. As cool as it was to see her.
Yeah, I completely forgot that she was, like, in the short, because, like, that he's talking to Black Canary on the phone at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
But you kind of forget her in all the action.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she just shows up just to save the day conveniently, and you're like, oh, well, I mean, they did set it up, but still, it was kind of cheap. But yeah, it is cool to see her.
Yeah, they did leave you with like some good feels at the end when he like proposes to her, though.
Yeah.
That was cool. That's cool to see. I always liked that romance.
Mm-hmm.
The last short was Jonah Hex, which if you've seen the Jonah Hex movie, I'm sorry. This was so much more true to the character.
It was a great quick Western. I'm a fan of the Western genre when it's done really well.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that they were able to tell an effective Western within the short amount of time that they had.
And it had a great voice cast. The voice cast was great in this one. Thomas Jane was the voice of Jonah Hex.
Yeah, I kind of regret not going with a Punisher versus Jonah Hex duel. Back last year, we ended up going with Red Hood versus Punisher, which was still a good match. But yeah, one of these days we're going to have to get Jonah Hex against somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe like the Phantom Rider or somebody.
I'm not sure that would be a fair fight because Jonah Hex is ultimately just a guy with a gun.
But I thought he also had like supernatural abilities.
In some storylines, but it's not really who the character is. In the movie, he was like able to bring people like back from the dead for like a short amount of time. I don't know where they got that from.
That's not from the comics?
I don't think so. Maybe it was like a one-off thing, but
in some story arc, yeah.
Yeah. This one also stars Linda Hamilton as Madame Lorraine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I thought I recognized her voice. Yeah, she's the prostitute that finds, like, the potential rich clients and then brings them up to her room and then kills them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great storyline. Like, it's a really appropriate, sinister setup for Jonah Hex.
Yeah, definitely. This was one where I wasn't quite sure where the story was going from the beginning, but then once he showed up into town and, he went up to her room and everything, you knew where it was going because she had the two henchmen off to the side outside the room of the brothel, and the way he just took them all out, that was a great action scene.
That was a great action scene. There's so much, like, dramatic irony here because, the film doesn't start off with Jonah Hex. It starts off with a guy named, like, Red Doc, and that's voiced by Michael Rooker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, it sounded like him, yeah.
It did. It was kind of funny. He just like opens the door. He's like, I could kick anyone's ass.
Yeah.
Just really good line delivery by Michael Rooker. But by the time he gets to like Jonah Hex and he just like expertly takes out all these henchmen and like the bartender and everyone there.
Yeah.
The action was just so satisfying.
Yeah, and the sense of justice that most of these shorts have is pretty harsh, because the way Madame Lorraine dies, where like Jonah Hex takes her down into the pit where she's thrown all of her victims basically, and then he climbs out of the pit with a rope and like leaves her with just that lantern that goes out, and she's just surrounded by all these dead bodies, soon to die herself.
Right.
It was dark.
It was. Like, you almost pity her, just how savage this justice is.
Yeah. But then you remember that everyone that's down there is down there because of her.
Right.
So
right.
you kind of don't feel too bad, but it is certainly frightening.
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's my nightmare. It's just to be like in an underground small cave with a bunch of dead people.
Yeah.
That's literally it. This short, like, definitely left an impression. I thought it was a good one to end the collection with.
Yeah. I really wish that DC would make more of these types of, like, DC Showcase anthological collections like
They only
this.
made one more.
Oh, really?
They only did one more after this, and that was Catwoman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that was attached to, like, the Batman Year One, like, Blu-ray or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Spectre was attached to Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. Jonah Hex was attached to Batman Under the Red Hood, which is a fantastic animated
I can't
film.
wait till we review that
Oh,
one.
I know, yeah. And then Green Arrow was attached to Superman, Batman, Apocalypse.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could watch these all day. I mean, if they were Marvel, I should say, I could just watch these all day. There's something about a good superhero short because it feels like a comic book. You know, a comic book can only hold so many pages of action before it continues the story in the next issue. And these shorts feel like comic book length.
yeah, they feel like issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think both helps it and hinders it. Because again, as well done as these are, they do leave you wanting more.
Right.
Which ultimately is why I'm giving this collection 4 stars.
Yeah, I think that's pretty apt. I think if they were like better animated or with like different styles or even like 3D animated, kind of like how Pixar's shorts are, I think this would be like a 4.5, 5-star collection. But that being said, besides the animation style and besides the, you know, the kind of the abruptness of some of the storylines, these are all so well made that, yeah, it warrants a 4-star rating.
Yeah, if the animation was a little bit better, like something, I don't know, like a Miyazaki caliber or something like that, then I think this would be rated higher. But it's always just kind of hard to like review these when I know that the animation quality could be better.
Yeah, in the end, the writing was better than the art. The art was good enough,
Yeah, it was more than adequate for sure.
especially in the Spectre short.
I always like it when they take like risks and new approaches to like the animation style. That's why I really liked Batman Ninja. And also I think probably why I had a really hard time giving it the rating I did. Because I remember when I first watched that, I was like, this is a 5-star film. So yeah, I think that does it for this review.
Yeah, it's a little short and sweet. Again, this collection is only an hour long in total, so there's not a whole lot to talk about, but I'm glad that we watched it leading up to our next episode.
Which is a duel episode. We're pitting Black Adam versus Apocalypse.
Right, and that is leading up to our review of the Shazam movie, which comes out the following week.
So excited. So many good reviews are coming out for it. I think the embargo lifts pretty shortly here. I can't wait. I'm afraid I'm getting overhyped for it.
For Shazam?
Yes.
Well, I'm getting pretty hyped for how bad Apocalypse is going to lay the beat down on Black Adam next week.
You really think that?
Yeah, I
It's
really
Black
think that.
Adam.
It's Apocalypse.
You just saw the film with Black Adam.
Yeah, and you saw X-Men Apocalypse.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, Black Adam has gone up against the entire Justice League. Apocalypse has gone up against the entire X-Men, which has a lot of heavy hitters themselves. So I think this is going to be a really good matchup. They're both villains. They both have roots in ancient Egypt. I think it's an apt duel that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait for this debate to be settled next week.
Yeah, until then, go ahead and visit dynamicduel.com where you can find links to all of our social media profiles. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. You'll also find a link to our merchandise store where we sell a variety of Marvel and DC themed swag that Jonathan draws up for our no prizes. I think the t-shirt that's going to come out for this episode is a Spectre t-shirt, I believe. So definitely go ahead and check that out again by visiting dynamicduel.com and clicking on the merchandise link. And if you use that link and you're a first-time buyer on TeePublic, you'll get 15% off your first order. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, and on our website, you'll also find a link to our Patreon site, which, just a quick reminder to those of you who are our patrons, that we will be releasing a blooper episode first day of April.
Right, as we do the first of every month. You guys can become patrons of ours for just $2 a month, and with that, you get access to those blooper episodes, as well as our back catalog of bonus content, including like top 10 lists and animations that Jonathan has done regarding characters outside of Marvel and DC that we pit against each other, and movie pitches and things like that.
definitely worth it. Yeah, it's only $2. It's the best thing that $2 can buy. I can almost guarantee that. All right, guys. We'll talk to you guys next week. And until then, up and away, true believers.